Hey, so I've got a script here. I thought this would be kind of a cool, fun script to build. I was looking at my backlog of possible videos to make. So in that backlog, I got like scripts and other things in it. And I was cleaning it up and found a Workset assignment by category script. And I originally built this years ago, and it was because a client had requirements that when we delivered the model that certain elements were to be on work sets, and they had it all listed out. And at the time, I did this. So it was a bunch of categories, and you can see I just did a list join, which was just joining the elements and then pulling that into one big list. And then this one's all the different work sets. This is not the original model, so we won't actually see the original work sets, but these are all set, and then that pulls the element ID, second node, and then that pulls into a list and goes into this. Well, I don't want to show that example. That's kind of a boring and that example, and that's not, I think, very interesting. I think there's a much better way to do this. So I thought what would be fun is potentially automating this process to an extent. Now, this isn't going to be foolproof. This isn't going to apply to every example or every project, but I think you can pull things out of this and use it in your own way, and hopefully you take that from this video. So I'm going to trim this up. I'm just going to actually get rid of almost everything except for except for those. I'm going to drop a Python node in here. I've got this Python node pointed to my own Python template. So the goal, and I was thinking this, the goal is to automate it. All right, so we're going to do very simple. We're not going to build a ton of logic into this. We're just going to look at our existing work sets, and we're going to name them like workset wall, workset air terminal, and so on, making it very straightforward. And then we're going to use fuzzy logic to match that up to a category, and then that's how we're going to group these. That's what I mean by it's not going to be foolproof, but I think this example is fun. Hopefully you can learn something from this, and if anything, you can maybe take pieces of this and apply it in your own way. So this is my own Python template, and I've got this on my GitHub if you wanted to grab it, but here is the library. So this is a custom library. This is the one on GitHub. So I've got some Python modules I can reference sometimes. But this is the local library. So this is through Anaconda. And then there's a virtual environment called Dynamo 2022. Now, what I've done is, I think for this example, what we're going to use is Fuzzy Wuzzy, which is a library. I think this is going to be a one way to approach this, to use that library and kind of do a word matching or distance or whatever, and see what words are closest to each other. So I installed that. So you can see here, I launched the Anaconda prompt, and then it was set to base, and then I activated the Dynamo 2022 environment, and then I just pipt installed Fuzzy Wuzzy. And then that, I'm going to close this, we don't need that. And then that was installed right here. So Anaconda 3, environment, Dynamo 2022, lib, site packages, Fuzzy Wuzzy. I'm just showing you this in case you want to do this yourself. You want to set it up, because if you're going to use this script, you have to have the Python pieces in place. Now, do you have to set it up this way? No. But if you don't know, that's why I wanted to show you this. I think I have below in the description a link to the Anaconda distribution website, and that's where you can actually download Anaconda, and that'll set you up with Python, and then you can create your own environments. It's very easy to do. Anyways, what we're going to do is use some functions in that and create a script to kind of group these words. Now, I'm going to go and pause the video and work on it. I don't like building scripts live, especially ones I've never done before. So I haven't done this. I've used Fuzzy Wuzzy, but I haven't tried this method. So I don't like the pressure. I like putting on music and creating, cool stuff. I find it a lot of fun. I don't like doing live stuff or even recording myself doing them. Maybe in the future I will, and I do think there's value in that. But for this one, I'm going to pause it. I'm going to build this script, do some testing, make sure everything works, and then we'll come back and I'll show you the script and talk about it, and then obviously you guys can download it off GitHub. So anyways, I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. So I built this script, and then I made some small tweaks. I recorded it, and then I made some tweaks and broke a bunch of stuff, and so I got everything fixed again, and should be good to go. So this is the final script. I've got 2 Python nodes here that are pulling in the model categories. So this is what this one looks like. So it's just collecting the model categories. And the way that I thought about going about this is that I only wanted the categories that I know are being used. So in this case, I use this filter element collector, and then I'm sure there's a better way to do this. Feel free to comment below if you know it. But I loop through the collector, and if l.category is returned, then it continues, because some of the some elements won't return a category and it'll just be null. So it filters those out, and then here I'm checking to see if it's a model element, and then finally I'm checking to see if it can add subcategories, because we don't want to grab like subcategories of like line. So with these 3 in place, it returns these 34. This seems right. These are all categories that are modeled within Revit, so it works. So I'm going to close that, and then this one here is the user work sets. This one's pretty straightforward. I was just checking out the Revit API docs, and I never used this filter to grab work sets. I've never really needed to do that. And so using this made it pretty easy, and just pass in the doc. And then, again, I just loop through that collector just like the other one. And this, I use this kind property, which will return it. Will return a value, and what we're going to check for is if it's a user work set. And I also turn this into a string, because it returns its own like kind element or object or whatever. So here's where I'll check it to see if it's a user work set, and then I'll append the ID, the workset ID, as an integer value. The integer is what's needed for when we actually assign. So over here, when we set the parameters for the elements, it needs the element, the workset ID, and then we'll use the workset name there. The workset name is important for when we actually loop through it, which is what we do here. I'm going to unfreeze this part. That part's still frozen. Let's run it. Should be really quick. Here is, and let me open this one back up. So we do all that, but you'll see here I'm not appending. I'm actually using the add method, and that's because we're using a set instead. So this is a set's going to be a unique list. And because I think there's like 4,000 elements, and so this list is only 34, so it goes to add it. It already exists, and so it doesn't add anything. And then here, what we've got is three different values. Only two really matter: index 2 and index 1. You'll see here I've got mech equipment. That's the workset name. And before we look at that, I'll show you this. These are the manual work. So I created these worksets, or the user created worksets. These are the different ones here. And so we'll see we've got mech equipment, and then we've got the ID for that index, or sorry, for that workset. We've got the ID 695, and then mechanical equipment is the category. So we can see that those have been mapped up correctly. Specialty, that one's pretty straightforward. That's a 1-to-1 match. Sprinklers, elec fixtures, we'll see that it maps up to that. Elec equipment, plumb fixtures, struct. These were, I didn't deviate from them dramatically, but and I've set a score of 80. So you'll see here, if it scores an 80 or above 80, then it maps it. But if it doesn't, it'll just leave it from this list. So you'll see that there's 17 items in this list. Or actually 18 items in the list, and over here we actually have 34. That's because, and I've got duct fittings as an example, but you'll see duct fittings is index 30, but we don't have duct fittings in here, but they do exist in the model. It's because no workset was close to duct fittings, and so it didn't return a value for that. So I won't step through all of this. Fuzzy Wuzzy, that library is pretty straightforward, at least for what I was trying to do here. All we're doing is we're checking the category to a workset. And then we're looping through all of the worksets, checking each of those and returning a score. And then from there, what we do is we'll look through that list and we'll check the max. And if any of those are above 80, then it continues and it'll actually append the information that you see in this list. And so what it'll do is it will pin the user workset names. It'll use the index of the max value. That will determine which workset we're going to append to our out list. And then same thing, we're doing the exact same thing with user workset IDs. And then here, model categories is actually using the IND is just index. And enumerate is when it's looping through it, it's just creating the index value, essentially. And that's what we're passing into the model categories list so that we pull out the right model categories. Now, probably a better way to go about that, or at least maybe a more intuitive way, is to loop through our fuzz values list. And I didn't really describe the fuzz values, but that's pretty much the list. So you've got a category, then you have a list of the workset scores, and so it could be 10 worksets, and that list has 10 different values. Each of those lists are related to a category. So a better way, instead of enumerate, could be zip, and we could do zip, and then we could do our model categories, and then fuzz values. That's just a different way to go about it. But anyways, all of that returns this list here. And this is why also I said, like, this isn't a foolproof method. This is also for fun and an example of something you could do inside of Dynamo, and you could take something like this and apply it in your own way. So we've got the information we need, and so we're going to index and grab our categories. The categories that we're pulling are just strings. So well, here's the 18 different categories. We're going to take those and actually turn them into a category instead of a string. And then here is our elements, and you'll see that we've got 4,003 elements. And then here is our element, or sorry, our workset IDs. And then with those two, we just pass that into here. So if we pull this over, select on this door, you'll see that this is the doors workset. Click on the stairs, you'll see stairs. And then if we click on this air terminal, you'll see that it's workset 1. Or if we click on this flex duct, you'll see that it's workset 1. Duct and so on, because we didn't have any work sets that matched that close enough, so it didn't pull that into our list as a category to assign a work set to. So what's another one? So if we have curtain panels in there, you'll see that they are pulling the walls work set, and that's because what am I trying to do? Okay. You'll see here too, it didn't mess with this door because that work set is because this is a part of the curtain panel, the overall, the curtain wall. And so you'll see here, if we grab the entire curtain wall, and if we scroll down, we'll see this has been assigned walls. And if we pull this back, we'll see walls have been assigned here. We'll see curtain wall mullions. And then if we pull that back, you'll see that this curtain wall, it's actually a wall, so that's what the category is. But if the elements in it, like this here, are set to walls, or like here, or sorry, let me grab that door. So this is set to walls. Well, because that isn't because it's embedded into essentially a parent, the work set's being driven by a parent element, and we're not able to write to that work set, so it's read only currently. Sometimes when you run this, you'll see that element.setParameter by name will error out. That's because it's trying to write to some elements that are read only. So keep that in mind when you run this. It'll still assign everything else, but it'll skip over those read only elements. We'll see that curtain mullion. So even though we've defined that, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense, I guess. Here I've defined that. That doesn't make a lot of sense because it is embedded in a a curtain wall. But I just wanted for you guys to visually see this, and let me just unfreeze this. Run it, and then what it's going to do is go through all those elements, assign them the right work sets, and then when it hits something like this mullion or this door, it won't be able to do anything because the parameter is read only. But if we expand this, you'll see that it still updated the stuff. Click on these walls, we'll see that those have been set properly. Here's a door element, you'll see that that's assigned doors. Anyways, that's the script. It's not, again, this isn't foolproof. This isn't something, like, I don't recommend assigning a work set, or sorry, a category to, a work set. It doesn't, every category having its own work set doesn't make a lot of sense. A lot of times, if companies are doing that, it's because they're using work sets for more than they should be used for. Such as in their views, they're using it to hide elements, which means that you have to know to always set elements to the proper work set. It doesn't make a lot of sense to want to do that. It's probably better to use filters, but sometimes you may be required to, when you deliver a model, to set things to a certain work set. Now, a lot of cases, if you have an Excel file, you can kind of match things up that way, read the Excel file. Or sometimes you could have an automated approach like this, if it allows for it. If the names and categories and things match closely, you can do something like this. And then also think about how you can automate this stuff and at least get 80% of it. And have it output something like this that allows you to review it really quickly so that you don't have to manually do it. It may still take manual effort, but less than maybe doing the entire thing manual. So think about that too. Automation doesn't always have to be 100%. Sometimes it can get you most of the way there. I still think that's important. And but anyways, look at this script, look at how you could apply this in your own way, and let me know what kind of ideas you come up with. And that's all I got for this video. The script will be on my GitHub. Feel free to download it, use it however way you want, and subscribe, like, share, and thanks for watching.